The Axum BWC payment, we, in the prior capital budgets, it said 2 and 22 was 2 of 5, and 3 of 5 and 23, 4 of 5 and 4. This should be the fifth of number 5 of 5, but yet this one says payment 2 of 6. So did we have they extended that, or are we done with that payment coming this year? Which one is correct? Are we still going to be paying for that? Or they basically, do we borrow again, or do we have to borrow again? Because it was our understanding when we first did this, the Axon BWC, that it was supposed to be 5 payments spread out over 5 years, and the 5th year would be now. I would ask council, when voting on this, did you truly look at the budgets and compare them to last year? Okay, because the years before that, and the years before that. All right, President Mercado will attest that I started getting involved in council meetings when the turf fields were being installed. That was 10 years ago. I came to council asking, you remember that, don't you?
No, you came out because there was going to be RCA bought the facility across from.
That was the first one, and then the second one was the turf fields, which is 10 years, and which we bonded for, and which is hopefully being paid off just in time for us to put new turf fields on. But the reason I'm asking is because there's a lot of spending and borrowing that we don't. I'm going to say that we don't need, or it doesn't make any sense. For example, we are now borrowing on this budget $150,000 for a public works generator. That's fine, but we borrowed $200,000 in 24. We borrowed $100,000 in 22. We borrowed $150,000 in 21, $100,000 in 19, and $100,000 in 18. So we previously borrowed $650,000 for a public works generator, and now we're borrowing another $150,000. So that's going to be $800,000 for a generator that has yet to be installed. Why are we continuing borrowing for a generator that's not been installed? And we're paying interest on that because we, as I've already stated, we're bonding it. Engineering designs. In 22, we had engineering designs totaling $111,000 for projects around the township. I'm not against the projects around the township, but to the best of my ability, through Oprah requests and everything, those projects have not been done. Cannot find any invoices on those projects. 23, we have $31,000 that was borrowed, $31,800 that was borrowed. And in 24, we have borrowed $90,600. Now, these are engineering designs. Not saying that there's anything wrong with getting a design to build a project, but if we're not doing that project, why are we borrowing and paying for a design, especially one from 22? $111,000 is a lot of money to borrow and not do a project with. How many lawnmowers, 72-inch mowers, does the township need? And again, I just want to state that I'm not saying that Public Works is doing a bad job, and I'm not saying they don't deserve these mowers, but how many do we need? There's 2 on there for 25. We borrowed 2 for 24, 2 in 23, 1 in 22, and 2 in 21. That's a total of 9 mowers, 9 72-inch mowers. Now, according to Mr. Cardis, he'll tell you that if anything has over a 5-year useful life, state New Jersey statutes state that we have to, or it can be put on the capital budgets and borrowed for. Not arguing that we don't need these mowers, but how many do we actually need? And if I were to go to Public Works tomorrow, would we have 9 72-inch mowers?
No, he's good. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Leader would like to speak, so you're not last, sir. Mr. Leader?
I won't speak.
No?
I'll let Sam finish his work. Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Leader, you have every right to speak.
You have every right to speak, that's fine. If you want to speak,
I understand.
I don't want him to take your time because he thinks I'm the last speaker.
You finish up.
Okay.
Ms. Hendry put her hand up, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sam, did you want to speak? Ms. Hendry?
Good evening, Dina Hendry Summerdale. With the $10 million that we are proposed to possibly borrow, last meeting in the agenda, it just said like various Valley Brook projects. It never said lights. Is there lights going to be put in there?
We'll answer at the end of the public hearing.
Oh, okay. Because it never said, it just said various projects. It didn't say anything. And so when I asked during the second public portion, how did TBA soccer know on a Tuesday evening if lights were going to be on the agenda? I think you misheard me and thought that I said Thursday, but it was really Tuesday because the email.
I didn't mishear you. You were asking if, how did they know? How did they know ahead of time?
Oh, I thought you
Is
were
it-
waiting until answering my questions after my time.
Okay, I just required your clarification, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'll answer it.
So Tuesday evening, an email went out from TBAA stating that it was going to be on the agenda. Well, the agenda is not out until Thursday. So I don't understand how a certain population can know about these possible projects, about money being spent or borrowed, when all of the population do not know. So I really ask you all again to really look at what is wanting to be borrowed and cut anything that doesn't need to be done today or this year. I get it. It would be a great thing for all children of able abilities to play at night, but it doesn't need to be done now. We are in debt, and it's not fair to the taxpayers to keep borrowing and expecting us to pay for that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
Hello, my name is Adam Denz. I'm 53 Tilford Road in the Timber Birch section. I also represent as one of the trustees of TBAA. And just for clarification for what was just said about the email, I was on the email. We didn't get to that weekend and prove it. We heard just like everybody else. It's posted, the hearings and everything. So my whole thing is we really need these improvements to our facility. It's really paramount for not just us, but also for the additional things that are going on here. For us, it's not just a thing for all the kids. It's a safety issue. We have these diesel-powered lights that when we're practicing, the kids are kicking the ball. It goes underneath of there. Next thing you know, they're trying to reach underneath of it. You've got 11 kids that are 10 years old or 11 years old or younger, and they're trying to go catch the balls. You're paying attention to something else, and these improvements will improve the quality of what these kids are doing. By what we heard here tonight, we saw there was two women that came here. And they talked about the importance of soccer, of different recreational sports. And this town does give great resources. They take care of it. We heard tonight about the people that are trying to help, facilitate those things in the township. Me personally, coming here to this township, I didn't know really much about it. And when I got here, started having children, we started going to TBAA. And the more I got involved with it, the more that I saw the improvements that we were doing to kids and the lives. You see these kids who may not have the best background and they thrive. Or these kids who may not have the greatest, when it comes to learning or attention, but you teach and you find ways to work with these kids. And for us to be able to, grow on that and have them play under the lights and, help us with practice. We don't have to go and shut off the lights. My wife is also a coach there, and she, at night, she's getting done and it's 8:30 at night. She's going around, she's trying to turn off the lights that we have, they're properly, sometimes they're not properly maintenance. So, when it comes to, everybody's worried about how much money that we're putting into these things. And I do too. I don't want my taxes to go up. However, the importance of these things when you see it for the kids, we forget about that aspect. It's about the kids. It's about, what we're bringing to it. And what you guys are presenting to us in our Parks and Recs department, the facilities that we have are wonderful. People say to us all the time, we come from all these different townships, and I appreciate it. And we just want to make it better. And, we talk about it all the time. We were over the weekend, we were working there, and it really is important, in bringing that money to our facility and making the improvements. And I appreciate it, from everybody over there. Like, we really, really do. And I want you to take the attentiveness to, I get that people are wanting to pinch pennies and save here and save there. However, for us, it's really important. It's really important to my kids. It's really important to all the other kids that are there. We see the other facilities that are, around town. And, when we look at it as on us, and we want to be able to bring it bigger and better. And I know, I'm an engineer myself. I sit on the other side. I'm in several different townships. And so I know, how the design aspect works. I know how, the monies are handled, the budgets, and all the constraints of that. But what I like to see is just the human aspect of it and look past it instead of just that it's dollars and cents, red and black. It's about children, it's about the facilities. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Anyone else has not spoken yet that would like to speak this morning?
Hi, Stacy Smirglio, 1680 Old Black Horse Pike. I didn't intend to speak, but I will. So, in regards to the spending of the lights, I'm just gonna hopefully say thanks for supporting that as well, because I not only have been out there with my kid and his team, but I was there tonight before I came here. I left to come here with their practice, and what's there now is not feasible. You can't see even with all of the things on. Also, it's been a safety issue, and the parking lot is amazing right now that I can actually see the car and I don't have to worry about hitting a kid when I'm backing up because it's dark. So it does matter. I don't know the politics behind how things get out, who listened to what meeting, who knew what was on agenda. I know that I learned that things are there and things get posted and people listen, and clearly everyone watches your feed. So, and I was part of getting an email that said, come support TBAA. And so just in support of that, it really does matter. And when we have almost had to cancel championship opportunities or cup opportunities because we don't have fields to play with lights. What we have there now is not up to, you're not allowed to play regulation with the temporary lights that we have. So in order for us to compete and to continue to allow the kids to do what they're trying to do, and the club to continue, it's an imperative thing to move forward with and finish. Because there's some lovely concrete pillars that are out there. So I couldn't imagine what would happen if it didn't go through. But anyway, for those that are concerned, there's a lot more people that use it than just TBAA. And I know that there's some wonderful churches in the area that also run some free camps there. So there's a lot more than just TBAA that benefits from that, but it is a community resource and it is a community thing. And it is something positive that would be coming to our township. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, sir.
Phil Dessen, Clementon. I'd like to say thank you to the council for the new playground. It's going to get a lot of use, I'm sure it is. And the last two speakers really, I think, set a tone. What we're saying is the lights are not something that you measure with an ROI. It doesn't work. It's not spreadsheet material. It's the joy that you see on their faces when they play. That's what we're talking about. You can't measure that. Please, I support those lights. And my son would have been here tonight. He's just not feeling good. And he wanted to say that he plays on that field. And he wanted to come tonight and say, put the lights on. So please, put those lights on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. Anyone else would like to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Bear with me. Mr. Leader, we'll start with you again.
Okay.
Followed by, sorry.
David Veeder, Huntington Avenue, Glendora. I see that a lot of the equipment is for yard work, grass work, stuff like that. Mowers. Seems like we get weed whackers every quarter or so. I don't know where they go. Might last a lot longer than that. What I don't understand with all those, it's calling lawn devices, if you'll go along with that. Why do we have a contract with Marksman to maintain our properties, but we also need to spend all this money on equipment that Marksman actually has in their trucks to maintain our properties? Under capital L, it's mentioned Black Box Theater. Now, I'm an artist. I believe in the arts. I think it's great what we're trying to do to have a space to pursue showing artists and their work. However, there's a separate category of bids and responses for Black Box Theater. So it's duplicated here. I don't quite get that. And as much as I love the arts, if I were you sitting there, I would say we have to postpone that. Whatever we paid for, finish it up, fence it up, lock it up. And once you get out of debt, then resume the work for the Arts District. It's not a necessity. Thank you for hearing me.
Donna Savage, Hilltop. I just have one more question. What is our township debt compared to other townships or municipals relative to our size? Is that something that we look at? Like, I know it's a lot of big numbers, it's, millions of dollars this, millions of dollars that, but what is our debt in compared to other townships? And I only say that because I've only been in this township for less than 3 years. And to be honest with you, I'm already ready to go. I don't think that what we pay in taxes, we see as citizens. I've lived in a township where my taxes were higher. I actually ended up moving to the township and buying a home here because of the athletics. And lights would be great. I would love a new car. I can't afford one, so all kids are, packing in the Honda, unfortunately. Sometimes we can't always do what we want to do because we have to do what we have to do. And it's just really concerning, to the point where I'm looking at other townships that, may even have higher taxes, but what am I getting in return for that? I believe that people will pay when they're getting something in return. And it's nerve-wracking. As a newer person in the township, I have 6 children, from high school all the way down to elementary. I am a coach. I have been with the athletics in the township since before I was a resident. And it's a little disheartening that I feel like there's never any answers. I've watched the online feeds. It's just concerning. I don't know if our township are we growing? Like, are people coming here or are people leaving? And if they are, why? And what is our debt compared to other municipalities that's relative to our size? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that's not spoken? Mr. Sweet, go back to you again.
I don't have to say my name again, do I? President, I don't have to say my name again, do I?
No.
Okay. Where was I? 72-inch mowers. All right. With respect to the Valley Brook lights, my kids play on 2 fields that have lights, and I'm not against the lights. Actually, my kids play more fields with lights, and I'm not against the lights for the kids. And I understand that whole concept of the joy in their faces and all of that. What I don't understand is why we have to borrow close to $1 million for those lights. All right. Mr. Councilman Mignon was on the aerial board way back when, and aerial paid for their own lights. So aerial, I believe, and Mr. Mignon can correct me on later if I'm because that was before my time, but they went out to a bank, got a loan, paid for the lights, had the lights installed. I think some work was donated. Some of the construction work was donated, and a league paid for about 10 years. Because when my son started playing baseball, was I think the last year of the payment of those lights. But I umpired under those lights several years. And yes, are lights needed in this day and age? Yes, but for a township to take on the responsibility when we're already in so much debt, when a league can go out and get a loan, a nonprofit loan, or get sponsors. American Water spent $1 million, not to bring up a sore subject, but spent over $1 million trying to convince people to sell the sewer system. That $1 million could have gone to pay for those lights at TBAA. Would have gone a lot farther. You know I'm right. Okay, they absolutely could have, and it might have gotten them more votes. Not to bring that home, but $1 million, TBAA would have had lights. They can go to a bank. They can get a loan. They can do fundraising. They can call Comcast. They can call Verizon, whatever. Those big companies are looking to shell out money. So to ask a township where I'm going to say close to 50% of the people are not going to use those lights, the kids, absolutely. Will I use those lights when we play TBAA? Absolutely. But I can tell you that 75% of my neighborhood doesn't care about those lights, and I'm going to hear about it. And I think council needs to realize that probably 50% of this township doesn't care about those lights. And the organizations, Ariel has done it, Blackwood has done it. I believe Blackwood paid for their own lights too, President Mercado. I think you were a part of that. I'm not sure.
No, they did not pay for their own lights.
Okay, that's not what I was told.
I was not part of the board.
Okay, not what I was told, but we definitely know that Ariel did, and other townships have paid for their own lights. The organization. So again, I'm not against the lights for the children, I'm all for it, but there are other ways than to borrow in a township that's already struggling with debt service. I'll go back to council looking at this budget and seeing things that may have been on there. Last year, for example, we borrowed close to $500,000 since 2019 for a roof on this building. The roof was not repaired until last year, and we only spent $200,000. But from 19, 21, actually 18, I'm sorry, 18, 19, 21, and 22, we borrowed close to $500,000. That's early borrowing for a roof that was never repaired or fixed or replaced. That money was bonded. That money, now we're still paying for that roof, and we only spent $200,000 on the fixing of the roof. And again, just to be clear, I am not complaining about spending the $200,000 on the roof, but we borrowed $500,000. So that's $300,000 that went elsewhere that we early borrowed. And nobody can ever tell me where that $300,000 went. Did it go to other projects? What other projects? And why are we borrowing so early before we fix the roof? Another example of this. We have borrowed as a township $300,000 over the last 2 years regarding batting cages. 200,000 2 years ago and 100,000 last year. And the batting cages are still not put in. So that's another $300,000 that we've borrowed that we're paying interest on. Why? I have to ask this question. There's a cash counterfeit counting machine on the budget for $800. I realize that Mr. Cardis will say that it's got a 5-year useful life and can be put on that budget. Why are we borrowing for $800? There are other items on there, small items that we're borrowing for. We're borrowing for a smart board, $4,500. If we're that dire straits that we need to borrow $5,300 for a counterfeit cash machine and a smart board, why? I just don't understand that. And yes, it's a 5-year period, but we don't have $5,300 in the budget to pay that off, because that $5,300 that we're borrowing is going to turn into $10,000 over the course of 10 years. It's going to double. And then our kids are going to pay for that. We're going to pay for that as we're getting closer to retirement with taxes going up. With regards to the high torque brush shredder, Mr. Cardis, you stated that we needed to show that we had the funds available in order to do that. And so that's why we're borrowing for it now, but it's going to take up to 2 years. We're a township. We're a large township, one of the largest townships in Camden County. And we have proven time and time again over the last 10 years that if we need to borrow money, we can get it at a moment's notice. We can go over the $1 million for insurance. We can go over the $3 million that we needed for health insurance for 2 years ago. There are so many ways. You're telling me that this company is not going to honor that and say, okay, yeah, they can get it, and that we don't want to borrow right now because we want to be put on the list. Yes, we're going to get it, and we can get that money at a moment's notice. I don't understand how that works. And I need clarification on that, because to me, it doesn't make any sense. If we needed $3 million for insurance with I forget what it was, the health insurance, we needed $3 million, and we got it. That meeting made an emergency. It was on the budget or on the agenda. We voted on it. You guys voted on it, agreed to it. All of a sudden, $3 million. And then we were told, well, we can get it. And there's other ways. So I just don't understand why. And then to go back, the last meeting with these lights, people were in the room and they were like, it's on the agenda, it's on the agenda. And the agenda does not mention lights. Okay, it does not mention, it says various improvements, and it does say improvements to Valley Brook. Valley Brook or TBAA gets a email stating that please come to council because there are people against the lights. We're not against the lights, we're against borrowing again for $1 million for something that could be done elsewhere. So I'm going to ask council again, did we really look at this budget? What can we take off of this budget? What can we pay for out of without borrowing? We have a J Pro truck scanner for $7,000. That's going to cost us $14,000 at the end of the day in 10 years after we borrow, because we've done that every year. What's our debt service right now? And it doesn't really matter what our debt service is in comparison to other townships. We don't live in those townships. We live here. And because of the debt service causing our taxes to go up, yes, we're looking at items that can be, I'm going to say the word cut per se, but maybe not borrowed. Again, just to go over quick numbers, $800,000 is being borrowed for a generator, $650 over the past 5 years that we have not installed. We have put in engineering designs of almost $250,000 over the last 3 years on projects that are not done yet, not even any chance of being done, because I've asked for them. I've asked for the invoices. I've gotten, oh, it's not been done. The bathroom in the library was borrowed for $50,000 in prior years. Not done. If you walk in there, it still feels like we're in the 70s in the Camden County Library. That's on Blackwood Road. So right now, we have about $228,000 in engineering designs for jobs. Are these jobs scheduled? I'm not gonna go through them with each job, but are these jobs scheduled? Are they going to be done? At least started? I think council needs to sit back and ask those questions, and if you didn't ask those questions, shame on you all. Because you're our elected officials, and this is your job. This should not be my job. I shouldn't have to Oprah all of this stuff and keep 10 years worth of stuff and go back on it. Those should be your questions to ask. You guys are our elected officials, and you're supposed to speak for us. And yet you're gonna go up here and rubber stamp this as you always do. And it's just wrong. So think about that. All these people here are coming out, we're trying to save on taxes, and you guys will just keep on borrowing, raising our taxes. It's gotta stop. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing. I really didn't understand what effect early borrowing has on the taxpayers and why the municipality would want to early borrow. So I did some research and I want to read a statement so everybody else understands it as well, because I'm sure most people do not. So at a recent meeting, you stated that the township has to borrow money 3 years in advance to show proof of funds for large capital equipment purchases. However, that explanation does not align with responsible municipal financial management practices. Borrowing years in advance costs for taxpayers by forcing us to pay interest on money that sits unused, rather than using short-term financing options or timing the debt issuance closer to the actual purchase date. Early borrowing may temporarily inflate the township's financial outlook by making fund balances look stronger, but in reality, it pushes the financial burden onto future taxpayers while benefiting the administration today by creating the illusion of financial stability. Instead of using borrowed money responsibly, this approach increases our township debt load and can be used to justify additional borrowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Lorraine Clothier, Cedar Avenue at Choose Landing. I wasn't going to speak tonight either, but I just want to say, as a mom of my son who plays for the Field of Dreams, like I would appreciate those lights to watch those kids. And like I said, I welcome everybody to come out just to one of the games. And, you know, when every parent that came up here and said, like, just look at the kids' faces, it's the truth. And, you know, I'm sure there are people that could care less about the lights, or, you know, just like people pay school taxes, they don't have children, or they don't have it, you know, their kids are grown, they don't, you know, they're still paying school taxes. It's just part of life. It's part of, you know, living in the township. And like I said, I thank you again. I'm very excited for the inclusion playground, and I hope those lights are being put in so we can have our Friday night game. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leader?
Thank you. Dave Leader, Huntington Avenue, Glendora. Mr. Sweet brought up the subject of the roof for this building. Several months ago, I talked about the roof on the other side, the other building behind the main building, needing roofing pretty seriously. I'm kind of surprised you don't have leaks because there's many shingles missing. I haven't heard any discussion since I brought this up months ago of whether the other building is scheduled for roofing. I'd like to know the answer to that. Thank you.
Mr. Leader, when you refer to the other building, what are you referring to? The senior center,
If you look at
police
this,
station? Police
the
station.
senior center and whatever's behind this building, I guess it's administrative. I don't know. But if you look at it overhead, sorry, if you look at Google Maps, and you look down, you know, there's this building, there is the community senior center, and then there's another building, like where the tax office is. That roof is in very bad condition. Thank you.
Ms. Hendry?
Good evening, Dina Hendry, Summerdale. Unfortunately, I think the root of this light issue stems from an unfortunate history of this council and this representation not operating with sheer transparency and accountability. And it may not be all of you sitting up here, so I want to say that. Unfortunately, when an email gets sent out on a Tuesday at 5:31 p.m. to TBAA parents that states, "Good evening. As you know, the township is in the process of adding lights to our fields, but they hit a glitch. There seems to be a group of township residents opposing this project. On Monday, February 10th at 7 p.m. in the council room at the municipal building, there will be a meeting to discuss this. TBA is asking you for your support to show up at the meeting and counteract this opposing group. Thank you in advance, TBA Soccer." As I state, this was on a Tuesday. The agenda is posted on a Thursday. So I asked directly, how did a select few know what was going to be discussed in a council meeting when the agenda wasn't posted? Also, in the agenda doesn't specifically lay out exactly that there are these lights. So, unfortunately, whoever gave the tidbit has caused this divide between these, as Ms. Troxel will say, naysayers to the supporting. Myself as a parent of 3 school-age children, we like nice things. We do sports. We are involved in the community, but we also know responsible spending. Those who are asking you to put this in a parking lot and to put a pin in it, or maybe ask for other avenues for these lights, are not saying it out of malice. We like to see the joy on children's faces. What we don't like is being a part of a pawn to have this take place. So I ask you directly, stop the bullcrap and be responsible, be transparent, and be accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Close the public hearing. We'll go down the list here. Okay. Mr. Leader started off asking about the years regarding the bond. We have in the resolution, it has the period of usefulness, but does not have the years of bond. Is that something wider to see if
Can't hear anything.
Please don't shout out, Mr. Leader.
I can answer
Beg
that.
your pardon?
Please don't
I
shout
can
out.
answer it also.
I'm asking, please don't shout out. I don't need any back.
Well, I've
Mr.
asked you
Leader.
to have council talk to the
Okay.
microphones.
Mr. Leader, thank you. Mr. Carson.
So a typical permanent financing of a bond anticipation ordinance, which would initially start as a note a one-year note, which, as we know, can be renewed year after year. When you get to the third year, you have to start paying down some principal. Well, when that is permanently financed, the typical maturity on that issuance will be about anywhere from 10 to 12 years. So I would say on average about 11 years. Excuse me?
You want me to add anything? The ordinance says 11 years and 1 month.
Okay.
Sorry,
That's the
Mr. Long.
expected life, man. It's not the duration.
That's what it
That's
says
the
in the ordinance.
duration.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Coyne, Ms.
Section
Coyne,
That's it.
in Ms. Coyne's first comment, Mr. Leader, could you please stop interrupting? Mr. Leader? Ms. Coyne's first comments, are there any projects that have been borrowed for again? Any projects in previous years that we've borrowed for again?
No,
What is the annual debt payment for a first $10 million bond? Is that something you can
I
anticipate?
don't have that. I don't know if the CFO would have it. I do know that she also asked about the overall borrowing power and our debt. I believe is that part of her questions about what we can borrow or where we are with regard to our debt compared to?
No, the question was, what's the annual debt payment for $10 million?
Yeah, I don't have the breakdown of that. Do you have that, Kristen?
It's not known until we permanently finance. So, yeah, I can't answer that question.
Right now, it's just 1 year because it's notes.
Ms. Coyne had asked about project start date, if they're a year out or longer on these projects. Now, there's a lot of projects that are listed here.
No, most of these projects will be completed within this calendar year. Mr. Sweet mentioned about the shredder and a couple of years. That's not the case. What takes longer to get is the recycling trucks. They're typically Labrie brand recycling trucks. They're the one-armed bandits that you see picking up the pink recycling containers. No one ever said that the shredder was going to take long to get. In fact, I believe the shredder will be able to be purchased probably within a month of adoption of the ordinance.
Ms. Coyne also asked for a list of the projects of the $10 million. And that's something that we provided members of the audience before. Residents, Ms. Coyne will provide a copy of that. Same thing that council received, so we'll provide that to Ms. Coyne. Ms. Kelly, how can we, bear with me for a second.
Whatever we paid for goes to that project.
Yes, that we're not moving line items to another line item, and that it's meant for that particular project and not a special interest. Do you want to comment on that?
No, because I don't know particularly what instance we're talking about. There are times where we budget for things and they come in under budget. There are times when they come in over, and there are times where they're exactly where we anticipated them to be.
There are times there are transfers that take place regarding those projects too. Right?
You are permitted to use, yes, as long as it's within the category. So you can add a street to the roads, you can add a piece of equipment to the vehicle section. We can add police purchases to the police section.
Mr. Polidoro wanted clarification from the last meeting that borrowing of vehicles, that we have to show that we have cash on hand. We have to borrow in order to purchase that vehicle. Can you provide clarification on that?
Yeah, the CFO is required to provide a certification of availability of funds when we go out for bid. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Eric, but yeah, you need to have a certification of availability fund before we go out.
Okay. Mr. Don Savage from Hilltop asked about how has the $3 million been returned to taxpayers? The MUA had $6.2 million that they had accumulated over time. We used half of those monies in tax relief to the taxpayers, and there's still money remaining from that, and that most likely will go back to tax relief to the residents. Had that not that $6.2 million remaining with the MUA, that would have never been returned to you as resident. We just sat there. You asked a question about response and interaction. Ms. Savage, you indicated you've watched some of the meetings in the past. There's been back and forth sometimes where the conversation probably hasn't been the most pleasant. And it's a back and forth. And I think, to be frank with you, this is more constructive. And there's questions that are being asked, and comments, and we're responding back. Everyone's respectful of each other. No one has catcalled each other since we started this in January. Let's see. Ms. Coyne came again, and an example that if the township approves the capital budget in February, it doesn't show in the operating budget because it hasn't been paid for. So the operating budget with the balance, as we go forward, it won't include it until the following year.
I believe that is correct, yes.
Okay. Mr. Sweet, the first time he came to the microphone, indicated that history has served as an indicator that when we pay interest on a loan for 3 years and then at the 5th year, we bond up, that bond lengthens the debt and then raises debt services and taxes. And he wants to know if he's understanding that correctly. Is that the practice of ours?
I'm a little lost with the question, so. We'll run that by me.
Okay, that we pay for a. Are you okay?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
All right. So that we pay interest on a loan for 3 years, and on the 5th year we bond up, and the bond lengthens the debt, and it raises our debt service and our taxes. So he wants to understand that correctly.
So typically, we would take each of the years that are in the form of notes. And when we reach a point in time where we have maybe 4, 5, or 6 years worth of notes through bond ordinances that were adopted with various capital improvements in there, we would then go to permanent financing. And at that point, that is when that issuance would have that maturity schedule of approximately 11 years.
On the Axum payment, Chief, you want to answer that?
Sure.
It indicates second out of payment 2 of 6, and Mr. Sweet indicated, isn't this the 5th year?
So our current body worn cameras are coming to the end of their life. Also, new technology is coming out, new body worn camera. We are required by the Attorney General and statute to have body worn cameras. Also, a new updated less lethal device called the Taser 10 has just recently been approved by the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey. Currently carry the Taser 7. This is very a much improved, less lethal device that every officer on patrol will be carrying. Our fleet cameras, every police car is equipped with a camera system to record not only in front, behind, but also a prisoner that would be in the back. These were coming to the end of their life as well. And knowing they were coming to the end of their life with this new technology, we were able to negotiate with Axon and lock in for the new system at the 2024 pricing. We estimated, based on what they were projecting the 2025 pricing to be, saved us approximately $143,000 a year for the amount of equipment that we would have to have. And so that also enabled us to utilize $299,000 in New Jersey state funding of a grant that we had. We applied for this grant, I would say 3-4 years ago. However, we were not allowed to use it until we purchased new equipment. So this has been held in escrow by the New Jersey Attorney General's office and a grant that we were already approved. Now that we're getting that equipment, we have almost $300,000 to use towards the payments, which reduced the cost for us this year. So we basically renegotiated and are getting all new equipment. which it was in my opinion, I had presented it to the administration as a win. We're getting the new improved less lethal equipment, less lethal weapons, new equipment in every police car. The other thing also, over the course of the years, as our fleets changed, the number of officers changed, we had piecemeal contracts, meaning we had a contract for body worn cameras that was separate, fleet camera system, and separate for the tasers. We were able to consolidate all this. It's called the safety plan, so everything's consolidated together. We're able to, I believe, in the long term, as these prices, there's no question, this equipment is expensive as it goes. We are mandated to have it. So we really negotiated to get the best pricing by locking in to the 2024 pricing with guaranteed increases if we didn't do that in 2025 and further. So in the long term, we consolidated last year's payment in together with it and are rolling it through for another 5 years. It'll end September 2029.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Sweet, I asked council, did you look at last year's budgets compared to the previous year? I did. I know there's some members of council that had inquired with Mr. Cardis regarding that. The public works generator, Mr. Sweet provided a figure that $800,000. I said, with this 150, if it's approved, will come to $800,000 and is yet to be installed. Can you give us an update on that, Mr. Cardis?
Yeah, no, we have been buying generators. I know that he's waiting on a generator, he being Mr. Tyshek, who's in charge of our buildings, he's the supervisor in charge of buildings, a generator for the fuel system, because right now we don't have a generator connected to that system. That would be, that would be dangerous not to have that. So we are buying the generators.
There's multiple generators.
There are multiple generators.
With the engineering design, Mr. Sweet question, $250,000 over the last 3 years, engineering design. Would you like to comment on that?
I would defer to Mr. Gill.
For our annual stuff, which have been, so I'm not sure specifically which projects.
How many 72-inch lawnmowers do we need? Mr. Sweet gave a count of 9. I know you're not on the ground level there, ground floor where Public Works, but that's something you can find out for us.
I can, and I encourage Mr. Sweet to contact me when he received the budget 2 weeks ago, but he did not do that.
Okay. All right, Ms. Hendry had asked about $10 million borrows.
Sorry, it's Tourette's syndrome, you mean, President McConnell.
Did I not?
No, Mr. Cardis, please. $10 million was borrowed. It never said lights going in there. There's various projects. How did TVA know? Anyone from council contact TVA? I don't believe. I wish Ms. Hendry would just say who it was rather than playing this dance. But there are footings over at TVAA. We did make a payment. This is the second payment. So anyone who's affiliated or has been on the field are aware that there are footings and the groundwork has been laid to have lights put in over at the TVA fields. Mr. Benz, thank you for your comments from TVA. Mr. Mariglo, thank you for your comments. Mr. Dessen, thank you for your comments. Mr. Leader, you asked about equipment. You indicated, is this equipment for yard work? And why do we have a contract with Marksman? Can you tell us a little bit about that contract and what their responsibilities are?
I mean, so we have, I guess right now, about 65 fields. Many of them are, big grass fields like White Oak, some of the areas out at Gloucester Township Community Park. We're cutting all those areas. What we go out for bid for, when you refer to Marksman, they were the low bidder, was the actual cutting of the retention bases, which is a very difficult process, and it really beats the heck out of the equipment that's used to get in there and cut the basins. So they do those, and I believe they also have the contract for a couple of our buildings for landscaping maintenance on those buildings. But we are definitely out cutting grass during grass season every day.
Mr. Leader also commented about the Black Box Theater, the bids, regarding the bids that were for that. It was separate. Why are we including it in capital? And indicate that it's not essentially lock it up until we have money. So the bids that we accepted on the bid report, I guess he's questioning that on the capital budget, why we have that in the capital budget as well.
Well, when I met with the mayor and we went through, discussed the budget, and we met with Representative Friday, it became obvious that we needed to put some money into capital to get this project finished. It is the mayor's intent and goal to open that Black Box Theater, I believe in August. So we are on schedule to do that.
Okay. Mr. Sweet came back up again and asked about the lights, not against the lights. Why borrow $1 million to get lights? Ariel paid for their lights. That is true. Ariel came to council here and indicated they did not want to wait to have lights and that they would go out and secure lights on their own. And as council, I think I was only a member of council. Were you here, Michelle, at that time? Okay. We're like, sure. If you want to go out and borrow and pay for them, that's fine. On the roof repair, Mr. Sweet had indicated that early borrowing on things that are not fixed or replaced, that we spent only $200,000 on roof, but we borrowed $300,000 more. Why are we borrowing early?
We did a lot of that roof. That's a mansard roof. All you have to do is look in front of the building. All that metallic sheeting there, that's the roof. It's not the actual on top of the building roof. It's the mansard around them. We still have portions that need to still be finished. The area along where the tax drive-through window still needs to be finished. And we are using that money for the roof.
With the batting cages, $200,000 was borrowed last year, $100K this year, and why are we paying interest on this? They have not.
Well, as you know, we went out for bid, the bids came in and I think it was $1.4 million. So at that point, we just had to put the brakes on that project.
And scale it back.
Well, we haven't come up with anything yet as to how we want to fill that gap.
Okay, the cash counterfeit machine, $800. Included.
Yeah, we have this discussion every year. Mr. Sweet doesn't like anything that goes to the lower level with regard to the maturity schedule that's approved by the state of New Jersey. Whether you like it or not, it's 5 years and on. Obviously, for 40 years as Mr. Leader points out.
That was also included in the smart board in that $4,500 figure. The high torque brush spreader, Mr. Sweet indicated that we have no problem borrowing if we needed to borrow at a moment's notice. We've done that. He illustrated when we borrowed for insurance, it was actually $4 million, wasn't it? We had the catastrophic insurance claims. So he has, I guess, a question, clarification, why the borrowing on the high torque brush spreader?
And I pointed out, it's not the brush grinder, it's not the shredder that is taking long to get. It is the recycling vehicles that are taking long to get. And that's for not only for Gloucester Township, for everybody.
Okay. He asked, did we look at this budget? I'm sorry? He asked if we looked at this budget. What's our debt service now at this present time?
What is our debt?
Sorry, yeah. Well, is it I've written down debt service.
I mean, I don't have a budget. Huh?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Right now, our total debt service, is 1.09% of our 3-year average value. And we're, as a municipality, we're allowed to increase it to 3.5%. So we are well underneath where we need to be.
So wait a minute, because if you're asking what the debt service is for the 2025 budget, we know what that debt service is. We know what the principal and interest payments are on the bonds and notes. We know what the payments are on the Green Acres.
So tell me.
What Christie's talking about is the municipalities permitted to go to 3.5% of the average of the last 3 equalized assessed values of the town. So our equalized value is about $4.5 billion. So when you take 3.5% of that, we would be able to borrow up to $160 million. Right now, we're at about 65. So I do not consider us to be on the high end.
The engineering jobs, are they scheduled or will they, well, we kind of addressed that earlier, they has to still be done or at least starting, and you anticipate them to be starting and completion at the end of this year, by the end of this year.
Correct.
Ms. Coyne came up back up again, read a statement, talked about what the effect of early borrowing has on the taxpayer. Ms. Lorraine Kluger came up and appreciate the lights. Mr. Leader came back up, again, talked about the roof of this building and talked about the other building needs a roof or the other building. Behind us is the parking lot, Mr. Leader. To the left of us is the senior center and the tax office. So that's why I was asking for clarification about the shingles that you're seeing. Are those shingles
I think the plan is to finish this building here.
this year?
Yeah, the Mansard roof. I'd have to talk to Bob Dyshak to get back.
Okay, and then Ms. Hendry, that the root of this light issue is that council or the folks that are up here are not operating with sheer transparency, and that email was sent out on Tuesday. An email. How do they know? How does select few know what was on the agenda and what was posted? Stop the bull crap and provide transparency. Well, I will be very transparent. No one here on council sent any email out. TBA has been a longtime partner of the township. They are in that facility, and I would imagine the administration would have a conversation regarding lights and the installation of lights and what will be included in the capital budget for that particular project and that program over in Valley Brook. So, all right, I'll entertain a motion on this ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Ordinance 0-25-05, ordinance amending chapter 81-31 entitled Speed Limits on the Code of the Township of Gloucester to establish speed limit reduction along the Black Horse Pike in the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey. This is to have the speed limit amended from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour on Old Black Horse Pike for the entire length. We'll now open up the public hearing on this. Anyone like to speak on this? Mr. Leader.
David Leader, Huntington Avenue, Glendora. I thank the chief and the people he's worked with to have this speed limit looked at and adjusted. Last meeting, I said I didn't know whether that was a county road or a township road. I never got an answer to that question. However, I found out that it's a county road, it's primarily the extension of Sommerdale Road. So I applaud the effort to bring that speed limit to 35. And I ask that it is not enough. If you drive on Station Avenue with homes on either side, you see the school children being left out of school. I know they stepped up their patrols. They put up additional signage on Station Avenue, and it appears to be much safer as a result of that work. But Station Avenue is 25 miles per hour. And I would urge the council and the chief to pursue having that speed limit lowered to 30 or 25. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? Seeing, let's worry about.
Just again, Stacy Smirglio, 1680 Old Black Horse Pike. Just to say thank you guys so much for all the work that you're doing, and the police for stepping up and for hearing how dangerous it was, but also on behalf of Mr. Taylor and unfortunately, Mrs. Taylor passed away recently, but they were just super thrilled that we got to this point as well. So thank you guys so much for hearing all the concerns.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Leader, thank you for your comments and for that, the chief's here. We're going to take a look at Station Avenue. Ms. Murrayville, thank you for your comments. I entertain a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love? Yes. Mrs. Walters? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance first reading, introduction. There'll be a hearing at its second reading. Ordinance 0-25-06, ordinance amending chapter 81-34A of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. What this does is it designates the handicap parking for 198 Breckenridge Drive. Can I have a motion, please? Is there a second? On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel? Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
first reading.
Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Ordinance 0-25-07, ordinance amending ordinance 0-23-10 entitled Ordinance creating chapter 38 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission, which will allow motion picture and television filming in the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey. May I have a motion, please? On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our consent agenda. Any council member would like to have any item removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Resolution 79, resolution making budget transfers between appropriation and reserves in the calendar year 2024 current fund budget.
May I have a motion, please?
So move.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We have some GTE Gov access emails. We actually have 3 of them. However, one of them, it seems to have a fictitious address. So this individual, I'll reach out directly to. That address that they listed, they don't know, there's not even an address in town for it. So I'll address that directly. First eGov is from Maurice Taylor at 1485 Kearsley Road, Sicklerville. Hello, I'm emailing to see if trash will be picked up on Kearsley Road this week. Our trash day is Monday, however, a tree fell on Sunday, February 16, 2025, which affected the area. The street was closed for almost 24 hours on the trash day, and today is February 17, 2025. Trash was collected. Thank you for following up on that, Mr. Curtis. Our next eGov is from Ms. Fretz, 85 Cherry Circle. Why are commercial trucks allowed to park on property owned by Gloucester Township? Along with the trucks, there's debris on the ground and truck parts and trash bags. The trucks had made ruts on the property as well. It is not an attractive look for the area either. The location is on Tice and Coles Road by Skeeters. The trucks have the name Orchard Holdings, so they're not township vehicles. Why are they permitted to be left there? And what project are they working on? Is it a private company like Windy Town or New Reynolds on Nero Road? We have an ordinance that prohibits signs from being on that property, and all these trucks and debris look even worse. Thank you for any information in regards to this matter. Ms. Fretz, these are NJDOT workers. They have been parking there for a week and they have 2 days remaining. They're working on a box and light post at the point, and also under the Route 42 overpass. The contact information is Orchard Holdings Construction, but they are subcontracted out by the Department of Transportation. Now we'll go to our second public portion, the public comment. This portion's for 30 minutes. Speaker can speak one time. There's 5 minutes for each speaker. Gentlemen, Gableport, I said you would go first. Ma'am, you'll go after him, okay?
Ma'am, up to your. Good evening, council. Second time up here today. Again, to be very quick, just curious if there's any updates on Gable Court. As I explained at the last meeting, I had a house built here 6 years ago. There's 18 houses in that community and been there longer than myself. We don't have our roads paved. I'm just curious to find out, is it in the budget for 2025 to have our streets paved?
Can I have your name real quick? I'm sorry.
Jerry, right.
Jerry Brown. Okay. Mr. Carter.
So, Mr. Qualamir, I believe this is one that we were pulling the bonds on.
That's correct. Right now, so we're well informed. We talked at the last meeting and also at the mayor's office conference. It's still in litigation. It's being handled by a litigation counsel. We've dealt for several years trying to settle the matter with Bondex, with the bonding company. They just at one point would say they would agree to do the work, but the contractor went in default, went bankrupt, and then they back out of the deal, and it was back and forth, back and forth. They recognize they have a bond obligation to do that, and they're going to do it, but they just won't come to a price, and that's why it's in litigation. When we met with the mayor, it was indicated very positively that we'll try to get accomplished in this year.
Right, and so we're looking at money that we have remaining from last year's streets improvement, and I believe that it's the mayor's intention to ask council to utilize that money for that project. And we'll seek the money for the bond. Am I correct, Mr. McGill?
Can I comment on it?
Yeah.
So you said they're initiating, it may go through, but how can we?
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, you can make your comments and then we'll answer after. I'm sorry. No. You can keep going, sir.
All I need to
We'll comment
know
at the
is,
end of it.
I just feel like every time I come here, it says it's in litigation. How can us homeowners in Nine Gable Court be notified that where we are in the process of those litigations?
Okay, let's answer it. Okay. Answer it again. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Ma'am, you had your hand up.
When I put in the application.
Can we have your name, please?
Oh,
Your
Deborah
address?
David Kessler, 198 Breckenridge Drive.
Can you say it again? The clerk didn't get your name. Can you say it again? The clerk didn't get your name.
Deborah David Kessler.
Good evening, Ms. Kessler.
Hmm?
Good evening.
Oh, hi. When I put in the application for the handicap parking sign, I included two attachments. And I don't see anything on here with regard to acknowledging either of the attachments. Regrettably, a sober living facility has been put in immediately next to my home. And the way they park in the wrong direction, across parking driveways. When they go to pull into the driveway, the car is stuck out in the middle of the sidewalk where kids have to turn around and walk around it. I requested a handicap parking place because my mother is 100 years old and I can't wait to get home to her now and to see how she's doing. I'm 70 with a bunch of medical issues. All I had asked was that I gave him copies. If you look at the statutes or the regulations under the FDA, or rather federal housing and ADA, each of these 10 people or better can apply for a disability. I would like to be able to park in front of my own house to help my mother and myself. All I was asking for was, can you put a placard up there and I'll pay, you don't even have to pay for it, that has the parking IDs for my mother and me. There's nothing in the ordinance that says it can't be done. Like I say, I'll pay for it myself. I gave him paperwork. If you want to see an example from where my mother originally lived, I mean, it's right here. Parking is becoming ridiculous. And I know you don't want to hear about all the trash I'm now finding on my lawn and this and that and everything else. It's like, I now live in a dump. Can you at least turn around and say, yeah, with these 2 stickers, I mean, even when I talked to when I talked to Officer Massey, he turned around and he said to me, you want 1 parking place or you want 2? Because there are 2 stickers or placards involved. I said to him, I don't want to be a pig. Okay? I just want to be able to park either 1 of 2 cars there. That was it. I mean, there's not, like I say, there's nothing in the ordinance that says that a little sign can't go up that says ID this and ID that. I'll pay for that myself. So what's your feedback?
So we respond at the end, but I know you want to get back to your 100-year-old mother.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you heard, but we had a first reading of an ordinance to designate in front of your home a handicap spot.
Yeah, I know. It was on page 14.
Okay. So
Council President?
I don't understand.
I can explain. What she's looking for is specific per parking space permit. She wants that parking space to be specific to her placard number. That is not allowed under New Jersey statute. I am not aware that it's allowed unless we write it into the ordinance that that's allowed. We'd have to research that. Generally, when you put handicap parking, it is for anyone who has handicap parking space.
Okay.
So if someone has a valid handicap parking placard, they can park in a handicap parking space. We do not, I'm not aware of having it for a specific person.
Okay.
I don't believe that's what she's looking at. I can talk to Mr. McGill, talk to Mr. Carlemere. She has an example of Clifton that does that. Just by putting a sign up on the pole that gives my officers no enforceability whatsoever if another person with a handicap placard or handicap tags parks in that space. That's the conflict.
Ms. Kessler, we'll look into that for you, okay?
I would appreciate it. Thank you. And did you call me earlier?
No.
Oh, like I said, short, sweet, and I'll pay for the sign myself.
Okay. Mr. Sweet, followed by Mr. Polidoro, followed by Ms. Coyne, followed by the gentleman with the Eagle shirt, and if we have time, Ms. Kelly.
Keep doing it. We'll check on the parking.
Sam Street from Ariel again. With regards to the generators that Mr. Carter said that they're putting in, I have Oprah requested those, and I've gotten back that they haven't been put in. So either that's an Oprah request violation, or Mr. Carter is flat out lying. As far as, and I have the paperwork that shows that. So I don't really.
My information came from this.
We're not supposed to go back and forth, Mr. Cardis. So, all right, so that's number one. Number two, my question with regarding the debt and the past performance and everything, Mr. Cardis clearly explained it earlier, which is the exact reading that I explained it, except Mr. Cardis will refuse to say that I'm right on anything. I would appreciate it if I am right, that you would actually acknowledge that. As far as the high torque shredder, Mr. Cardis, I think, doesn't realize that Mark Twain once said, if you don't lie, there's nothing to remember. Mr. Cardis has said that the reason that in a prior meeting, and I can bring up the video, and I can email it all to you, that the reason we're getting this high torque shredder is because the machine that we bought earlier tanked out or crapped out because it was being used wrong. And then we were using another machine for that, and we were spending $400,000 a year on that. So that's why we're buying this $910,000 machine. He also stated that it will take 2 years for this to get here for that. He stated that on video. So I really appreciate it in the future that if Mr. Cardis stops lying.
Show me
Okay.
the video.
All right.
Don't call me a liar.
I'm going to call you a liar because that's what you are right now. Okay. And then as far as, yes, he did ask me to get back to him with questions on that. But how many mowers was not answered? How many mowers do we need, especially since we do, as Mr. Leader pointed out, we have a contract with Marksman Landscaping. We also have major turf fields. So a 72-inch lawnmower, and to have 9 of them, do we have 9 of them in Public Works? And that was not answered. And how many do we need? And I would love it if Mr. Bucciaroni would chip in with that answer. I know he's not here, but he knows how to get a hold of me. And I'd like to say one last thing. I would love to say that I'm shocked that we all voted for it and that we're capitalizing an $800 cash counterfeit machine that's going to cost this township $1,600. And Mr. Cardis and I will agree to disagree on this, but to bond something that's going to take 10 years to pay off, it's $800. I'm sure we could take up a collection among the people in this town, in this room, and come up with $800 to pay for a cash machine that's now going to cost this township $1,600 over the course of its lifetime, and probably not be in service by the time we pay it. It's economics 101. Very disappointed again in council, just to not even just blow off what we're saying and not even care. And it's really easy to spend other people's monies when it's not yours. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Polidoro?
Ray Polidoro, Ariel, I'll be brief because it is getting late. So your new methodology of not listening quite clearly to the questions and then answering at the very end. And my proof that you're not listening well is because a young lady walked up here and asked what the debt service was. What she was looking for was a total. And you blurted out percentages according to Trenton and other municipalities. She was looking for debt service payments. That was an answer. Also, of the time that we come to these meetings and the changes have been going on, there's a few things that ought to make people of Gloucester Township shake their heads. So me and a few friends came up with a top 5 list that would make your head shake. And we can go back just to the last few years. The Glendora Ambulance Building, your procurement of it, the amount of money you put into it, and now we're collecting no taxes from it. And we're renting it out rent-free, tax-free, to a for-profit organization. Medical industry is doing very, very well right now. You go by any hospital, you'll see wings put on with somebody's name on it, what have you. And even though the fact is they provide a service to us all, they make a lot of money and they charge for a ride. And yet we still continue to give a medical facility like that worth billions and billions of dollars out for free. That's something to make your head shake. In the past, you've had back and forth with the housing authority, selling the same piece of property back and forth and back and forth. And it bordered on unlawful at one point. And then you guys talked about, through the housing authority, remediating vacant homes, and maybe even considering that to be part of our affordable housing requirement. Don't remember that ever happening. The discussion kind of went blank, and that went on. That was another thing that was in the top 5. The Black Box Community Center. Now, I'm not a math major. I play one on TV, nor am I real good at it. But if you add the numbers that are so far on that bank, and I had asked you early on if you guys bought that sight unseen, because who in the hell would buy a building filled with asbestos that you know you have to remediate? The answer to that is Gloucester Township. So you got 129,000 initial cost, 71,000 reconstruction, 25,000 on a facade with some grant money, another $500,000 in additional grants, then another $400,000 with GT and other grants, And now you put out the bid for some more work to be done on it at 1.8 million. And that now has that building at 2.8 million, 2.875 million. That's a hell of a building. And I don't even think there's anything in Morristown quite worth that, but this is Gloucester Township. Maybe take a look at how much is going into that. And at the end, we'll collect no taxes from that. The people that had that when it was vacant, we're still paying taxes on it, and we're not going to collect any taxes at the end of the day. If you give it to a nonprofit that's not going to pay any taxes. Then we have number 2, Public Works. Needed a boiler, and you had R&V come in here and state right here at this desk that the boiler need to be updated. It was going to go in the same exact room, in the same exact spot. And we had a bill, if I'm not mistaken, from R&V for $37,000. And it looks to me and other folks that have heard this, they got paid $37,000 to say, yeah, right back there where it was before. That'd be great. 37 grand. And then, of course, number 1 is the most recent, is the dissolving of the MUA and an attempt to sell the sewer. And we'd like to see our bills stay where they're at. And again, it looks like for each time that we're going to review the sewer sale, and again, the township voters overwhelmingly crush that. You're still going to borrow and borrow and borrow to fix the sewers. And again, when you have that much cash on hand, you want to keep on swiping the people's credit card. At some point, start thinking of the children and the grandchildren of this township and what you're doing to them. You always say it's for the children. Doesn't seem like it. That's the top 5 of things that go on. Can't wait to see what's ahead. Thank you very much for your time.
Denise Coyne, Shoes Landing. First of all, I'd like to make a comment about President Mercado's comment regarding the new structure of the meetings and how the conversations in the past weren't always pleasant. I'm not aware that democracy has to be pleasant. I'm certain that a lot of times it's not. And democracy is supposed to be about transparency and accountability, not about pleasant discussion. Debates often are not pleasant, but they're about getting answers and getting to the truth. As far as the bond that was approved for the sewer and the $300,000 I told you about that you said was approved for that purpose, you said you would go back and look at that ordinance. I'd like to know what good that does when you approved the bond tonight. And if you want to do your research, you can look at December 9th at the 41-minute mark, because that's when you said that the $300,000 was going to be used to hook up that neighborhood. So you people approved $1 million bond tonight, not knowing whether or not $300,000 was already approved for that. So how much money did you approve for that sewer hookup? Do you even know? And what the heck good does it do to research something that's already approved? And the third thing is Giselle Brown. Remember her? She sent an e-gov in with no phone number, no address, and refused to give it because she said she felt unsafe. You read that e-gov. But yet you won't read one tonight because somebody supposedly sent in a fictitious address. Why do you have to give an address to ask your representative government a question and expect an answer? Why do you have to do that? Do you even know my real name? Who am I? You don't even know my real name. And I come here meeting after meeting for years, and I speak and I ask questions and you give me answers. I guarantee you, you don't know my name. So please explain to me why you have to give personal information and have it verified in order to ask a question from your representative government. That is not democracy. Thank you.
Ms. Keller.
Hi, everyone. I've been saying since August, my name is Nancy Kelly. Guess what? It's not. Never told you my real name.
Okay.
Just a quick little thing here that I just want to read. I've heard the phrase, everything goes up. I've heard it 4 to 5 times in the last 2 council meetings. The expression, everything goes up, is sad, poor, and a pathetic justification for tax increases. It doesn't lack specifics, well-rounded connections between the rise in prices and the actual need for government spending. The phrase that everything goes up does not, it's just broad, it's unfocused. And to hear that multiple times, it's insulting. Council should focus on policies that combat inflation, support ways to have economic stability. There are alternative solutions than just saying everything goes up. Is it a want? Is it a need? I don't want to hear that again. Everything does not go up. I went through my home budget. My cable bill hasn't gone up. It's been the same $35 for a good 6 or 7 years. My satellite bill hasn't gone up in probably 15 years. My life insurance hasn't gone up. My AAA membership has not gone up. My gym membership, my favorite sneakers at my sneaker store hasn't gone up. My health care actually has gone down. My employer fought for hundreds of employees and we had our health care reduced. So, oh, and my local guy, my corner guy who changes my oil, he hasn't gone up. So the excuse that everything goes up doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gentlemen?
Hello again, everybody.
I would just like to let you know that I'm Rob Runquist at 1890 New Brooklyn Aerial Road. And yes, I am right in the middle of this ongoing mayhem that goes on with the intersection of Choose Landing Road and New Brooklyn Road. And I'm talking about car accidents. And they continue to keep happening. I just wanted to ask, is there a proposal to put a traffic light there or to block off right where Jersey Auto Body is? Because I've seen head-on collisions. I can't even tell you how many auto body parts I've taken off in front of my house, and just it's splintered all over the place. This goes on and on and on. And now with the Wawa there, when you combine the traffic that was there and the traffic that is now there when they're coming out onto New Brooklyn Road and making a left and going past Jersey Auto Body, well, there's a turnoff there to go down Choose Landing Road, to wrap around Jersey Auto Body. Okay, so now, they either make the turn or they change their mind and they keep going straight down New Brooklyn Aerial Road, right in front of my house. And that's where the collisions, that's where they come, right there. Right there along the wall there, you have all that paneling behind you. That's the grid that Aerial is. And along that, you have Krusky's Road, you have Jarvis Road, you have Hickstown Road, Garwood Road, then Hickstown Road, and they all go toward Pine Hill. All right. Well, over the years, I've been in Aerial since 1982. I've seen a lot of traffic lights go up. Is there any proposal to eliminate that problem there? Because it's ongoing. Any officer in this room will tell you it happens all the time. I had a lady, she ended up on my lawn a couple of years ago, went right through the fence. If it wasn't for the pine trees that are in front of my property, she would have ended up probably in my garage or in my house. I'm 150 feet off the road. So I'm just looking out for everybody's safety. And I've been out there a long, long time. And when you can hear crunching metal from 150 feet away inside your own home, it's, it's pretty common. It really is. I've seen head-on collisions. I've seen people hurt. I've seen people taken away, and a number of years ago, my next door neighbor, his home is real close to the road, right next door to me, directly across from Jersey Auto Body. In the wintertime, somebody slid off the road, went through the intersection, and his gas main was in the front of the house. And the house was hit, and the gas main did not go off, luckily. So that's all I have to say. And I hope a proposal of some kind can be done for everyone's safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronquist. We have time for one last speaker, Mr. Leader.
David Leader, Huntington Avenue, Glendora. I apologize to council for being out of order in two cases. Once, I don't know the rules. I don't know when I can speak on an item. The documents that are provided by the clerk say this is the agenda for the meeting, but you try and speak on an agenda item and find out that you're in violation of the standard protocols. I don't know what those protocols are. I did not get a chance to speak on R25:02:079, and I don't know why. Other people have come up here. They were told that they were out of order. Wait till later. Your public doesn't know the rules. If you have more specific definitions of the meeting rules and the proper etiquette for addressing council at different portions of the meeting, I urge you to publish that. At one of the previous meetings, several previous meetings, I asked about the Township's organizational chart. I believe it is dated 23 or earlier. And I bring it up every few months. I know that the people that I talk with, township residents, are asking, who's got what position and what in the town? What is the names of this department? Who's that department report to? We don't know if that document is accurate as it's in place now or not. Further, I asked 2 months ago about your organizational chart. Mr. Mercado turned to Mr. Cartemere and said, what is the status of that? Is there any legal thing? A month later, I come back with my action item list saying, Mr. Cartemere needs to be assigned to this action item because no action items that council takes, I beg your pardon, many action items that council takes at one meeting are not carried over to future meetings. So that's why I created that document of open action items. I realize not 100% of them are council action items. Some are from We the People. But there's still things in that list that people want to address, want council to address. And it's not getting any attention. So I ask again, who is responsible for generating an updated organizational chart for the township of Gloucester? On the budget transfers, I don't know what inside the cap means. It's a phrase right underneath account title, inside the cap. Previously, when I asked about documents like this, council said that as long as the two figures on the bottom match, that that's a good thing. That means it's accurate. Well, it may mean that's accurate if there's more background information. If you take the word of your finance people 100% of the time without doing any research and double checking, there may be mistakes made. They're people. There's errors made by accounting people as well. So yeah, the two items match. And it looks like to me that the electricity OE paid for all these other departments' expenses. That's an assumption I make. I don't know whether that's true or not, because for the third time, I've asked for this form to be explained to me. On the eGov email addresses, it's a web form. Web form is not email. I am a webmaster. Web forms are not email. If you request someone's email address, the courtesy in web development is they get copied on the text that they send to you on the webmail. I've asked for that to be included in future IT planning. I've gotten no feedback on that action item. This is not the first time I brought it up. I see my time is up. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you. That's the end of our second comment public portion. Mr. Brown has left for the evening. Mr. Carlmer, can we get a timeline on that for cable court? Yes, more definitive timeline. Yes, so if you could relay that to your neighbor, I do appreciate it. I asked Mr. Carter's administrator, Mr. Carlmer, solicitor, to get some more definitive timeline for cable court. I'm going to obtain that timeline for you and for Mr. Brown. Okay. Ms. Custer's left for the evening regarding her handicap parking spot. Mr. Sweet made some comments. I don't know if there's any questions that were in there.
Oh, he did have a question about the generators and the Oprah and about it being inaccurate. The answer he got from Mr. Cardis, I'm sorry. So a question about the high torque shredder, and a quote from Mark Twain. Sorry, I didn't write that quote down, Sam. And that the machine was being used the wrong way, the shredder. And then how many mowers, 72 inch, we have 9 of them. How many do we need?
Well, the mowers, you're not going to you can provide that information afterwards, but regarding the torque, can you, the generators, can you comment on that, Mr. Carson?
Yeah, I was told by Bob Kaishak, who's in charge of buildings and who's in charge of buying those generators, that we are in fact buying the generators. There are individual generators. One is for, I believe, Hyder Lane Senior Center. One is for the gas pumps. I will have to get the rest of that list and provide that to you. Mr. Sweet says that I said that the shredder won't be available for 2 years. I don't recall saying that. What I said was that the recycling truck sometimes takes a year and a half to get. So that was not something I said.
Okay. Mr. Polidor came up and gave his top 5. Ray's no longer here. I counted 6, so he's correct. He's not a math major. Lindor Ambulance Building, Housing Authority, some of it back and forth. Remediation vacant homes, the bank building, public works boiler, and dissolving the MUA. So that's 6. Ms. Coyne made a comment about this new structure of the meeting, and debates are not pleasant. And the bond for the sewer, what good does it use? And looking back at something, I'm still going to go back and take a look at that at the 41-minute mark. Thank you very much, Ms. Coyne. In regards to Ms. Giselle Brown and feeling unsafe, I believe in transparency. And apparently, Ms. Coyne's aware of what was in that email that was sent.
What?
So in regards to Ms. Kelly,
Are you accusing
and
me of
Ms.
something?
Kelly, regarding policies and solutions, and that that when we say that things go up, it's a pathetic justification. And shared with us that nothing is increased, so provide a list of that. Mr. Runquist, regarding that traffic light, I know that, police department has spoken to Mr. Runquist on the way out. And Mr. Leader, resolution 079 was in the first public portion and no one raised their hand, Mr. Leader. So you had an opportunity to speak during the first public portion, but you did not raise your hand. No one said you could not speak at that time.
I raised my hand at the gavel. I apologize.
Okay. In regards to organizational chart, that's an administrative function. We're a legislative branch here. That is administrative function. That lies with the administration. Mr. Cars can take that back to the administration. And Mr. Cars, can you provide a layman's term of what inside the cap is?
So inside the cap, in the way the budget's constructed, there are, I believe, 28 or 29 pages of the state budget document. The first 18 pages of that document, or 19 pages, are items that are considered inside the cap. So they're subject to the cap, the COLA ordinance that we just recently passed, where we increased it from 2.5% to 3.5%. There are items that are considered outside the cap, so they don't fall within that 2.5% or 3.5%. They are the items that fall after sheet 19. They're usually debt service, the capital improvement fund, the reserve for uncollected taxes, some of the grants. So when transfers take place, the rule is you can transfer from inside the cap to inside the cap, from inside the cap to outside the cap, from outside the cap to outside the cap, but never outside the cap to inside the cap. And then you can listen to the tape. I think we're recording now.
Okay.
So that's the explanation for what the cap is.
All right. May I have polling of directors, please?
Mr. Carlemere.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis.
Nothing.
Chief Harkins.
So I just want to make council aware that, it was a bad weekend for law enforcement throughout the country. Hit a little bit close to home. It is, on last night, we had a Camden officer with 2 years on, graduated police academy with many of our officers, who was stabbed in his neck by during an unprovoked attack, 1100 block of Broadway in Camden, from an emotionally disturbed person who came up from behind and stabbed him in the neck. He's still in critical but stable condition. He's going to need to undergo several surgeries. His name is Officer Joshua McKnight. He is 23 years old. He was a Marine, 2 years on the job. So I just asked you to keep that. We've been in contact, even just during the meeting with Chief Rodriguez from Camden County Police Department. But also in Virginia Beach, 2 officers were killed in the line of duty on Friday evening at about 11:30. Ties to Gloucester Township. His father, the slain officer's father, is a resident of Gloucester Township. He's a retired Camden police officer, friend of mine, someone I've worked with. He was a SWAT officer for many years in Camden City. So he's also the father is the president of the Centurions, a motorcycle club, which is a law enforcement motorcycle, first responder motorcycle club. So we've been supporting him. I spoke to him yesterday morning. From that is also the slain officer's brother is a state corrections officer, lives in Blackwood as well. The officer's mother lives in Lindenwall at this time. So hits close to home. I believe the young man was from Gloucester Township, Christopher Reese, but those 2 officers, York, Pennsylvania, and also an officer, a sheriff's officer from Mississippi. So just to keep you informed, even though these places are, they weren't from our region, but they're tied very close to us. So I just ask you to keep those families in your thoughts and prayers. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. McGill.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Mrs. Eric. Mr. Minio.
Everyone have a great night and a great week. Thank you.
Mrs. Albright Troxel.
Just another nice evening in Black History Month celebration that we had this evening. And a lot of good people in this township.
Mrs. Grace Love.
Ditto to Mrs. Albright, Council Troxel's comments, but I also want to keep up strong prayer for the police officers and their families and loved ones.
Mrs. Walters?
Thank you for everybody for coming on tonight.
Mrs. Winters?
Thank everyone for coming out. I do keep all officers in my prayers all the time. And I really put how I said that. Thank you.
Mr. Mercado?
Congratulations to our honorees this evening. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for your comments. I entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Have a great evening, everyone.